What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We've got another friend on the podcast, Michael Erickson Fashin. Michael is the CEO of Bad Badger. He's also my friend. And today he brought his A game. We were talking just before we got this podcast started. And I am really excited about this topic because I feel like it's a really useful topic that not enough people discussed. Michael, welcome to the show. What do you got for us?
Sean, what's going on, man? Well, the first thing is I was just thinking how I need to really book a trip to California so we can go surfing together. That was the first thing I thought of. The second thing, and it's been a while because I live in landlocked Austin, Texas. I never thought I'd live in a landlocked place, and here I've been for 10 years. In terms of the PPC world, one of my favorite things has always been bulk files. Working with your PPC data in an offline environment, so like your spreadsheet is an offline environment, has always been a passion of mine. Google Ads has a similar thing where you can export your data to work with it offline. So did Meta for some time. But a big chunk of my Amazon PPC focus over the last few years has actually been like thinking about what a bulk file is possible to do and what you can do in it. And in terms of just like understanding your account quickly, like the stuff that I'll blast through today, you can do it in an account in like under 5 minutes. And granted, the longest time will be actually processing the bulk file. So you can pause the episode and go go get your bulk file, wait for it, and by the end of it, hopefully it's done. I would say it's gotten slower over the years. It used to be faster. I remember huge accounts that spend like $500,000 a month. I'd be able to download them in like 5 minutes. And now that will take like an hour. And I only recently realized that the timings got so slow. But self-auditing through bulk files with pivot tables. It's a great topic. You can learn a lot really fast.
Yeah. And just to parent what Michael's saying, I've had a bulk file take more than a day to download for me on some really big accounts. So yeah, highly recommend that you try to do this with some lead time because you're going to need it. Yeah.
Downloading it, I've been asked that question before, like what's up with bulk files? Why do they take so long? Downloading it in parts, downloading smaller date ranges, like 7 days instead of 30 days, which is a little bit of a bummer. And then you have to depend on like your computer processing power to like process and combine 2 7-day reports. These files can get large, but yeah. I mean, it's a worthy investment to like upgrade your gear, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was really deep into bulk files. And one of the main things I did was I upgraded all my hardware so that I could manage bulk files more effectively. And it was a worthy investment. At the time, I was thinking to myself, do I really need that much RAM just to use Excel files? But, that's where all the gold is. And I think that's where we're going to go next. So Michael, take us away. Where's the first piece of gold?
So this is a preamble. The first thing I will say is I actually use LibreOffice. I'm out of the Microsoft Office ecosystem. It feels great. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that community who builds and maintain LibreOffice, open source spreadsheet program that anyone can use. So that's a big shout out.
For $0, right?
Absolutely. So I wanted to give that a shout out. But basically, if it's all right with you, and we can just jump right into it. If it's all right with you, I actually prepared a couple notes here.
Yeah, please.
If that's all right. So
that's great.
On my screen, self-auditing through bulk file audit pivot tables. I wish I can bulk audit pivot table my life, Sean. So essentially, to me, when I approach this, it's really to identify top level summaries. There's a lot you can do with like filtering and finding specific things about specific stuff. Like one of my favorite things in an audit is like amount of non-converting spend. So this is not that. This is going to be more so understanding your account at a quick level so that you can then jump in and do some more fine-tuned analysis here. So I just wanted to share this. So basically with a bulk file, so if you think about what a bulk file is, it's going to be all of the data in your account all at once in a spreadsheet, which is neat. And what that allows you to do is like see all the campaigns in every portfolio and then begin to, in this singular use case, which is like running pivot tables, it's going to allow me to combine this information super fast. Like you press the pivot table button, in this case, I wanted to view match types. and I wanted to view the spend and sales of them. I could have added clicks or whatever. Instead, I just wanted to do spend and sales, and then I added my own ACoS column to the pivot table. So this takes, I mean, granted, once you have the file, you open it, click pivot table, select these metrics, 1 click, 2 click, 3 click, 4, and in under like 10 clicks and in under like 10 seconds, if you know what you're doing, you get the muscle memory, you now have a match type by spend, sales, and ACoS. So what we have on screen is like, this is a relatively small account, spent about $850 across match types. I can right away see, well, maybe I'm forgetting to use phrase. And then, you can tap into some sort of phrase type strategy. And from there, I'd probably be looking at, are there any exact matches that are like over segmented that maybe don't get much traffic that I'd want to combine into a phrase? So that might be something that's triggering in me as I look at this. Now, this data isn't too varied. This is a relatively small account. I have broad at 19% ACoS. I have exact at 23-ish% ACoS. In some accounts, you'll see bigger spreads where it's like, oh my goodness, I need to pay closer attention to my phrase or my broad, or like I'm not getting any leverage out of here. So it can just help you find inconsistencies. In this case, I'm clearly seeing I forgot phrase entirely. So I can begin to think about how phrase is used and how to best incorporate it. I can analyze my current keywords, products, and placements and search terms and determine what are the perfect phrases to add to my account to enrich it, to expand my coverage. And I might have missed this fact if I was just like clicking around my campaigns. I may have never realized I actually am not running any phrase at all. So it might not be as extreme as this, but you might find some imbalances. So this first one, it's great.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that you should just always be paying attention to. It's super easy to find out. And the other thing that's really, really handy about this is when you do find big swings, it's usually a symptom of something else. So, for example, what we'll often find when we look at a different account is we'll notice that the ACoS is often the opposite. And broad match has a really high ACoS, and exact match has a much lower ACoS. Often that's a symptom of not enough negative keyword usage.
Oh, yeah.
And like maybe some high spend on not that relevant keywords. And conversely, maybe if you see a ton of spend on exact match keywords, or high ACoS on exact match keywords, it might mean that that's too expensive for your brand. Or it could be that your conversion rate's not strong enough to be migrating those keywords to exact match. There's a lot of different things that could be happening there. But when I look at this kind of jumps out at me, and I'm like thinking to myself, yeah, this is incredibly handy. You can get a great insight in, 10 clicks or less. Michael, you're the Domino's of Amazon Insights, 25 minutes or less.
That's right. In the
Yeah.
same, all of these are going to be in the same vein, and these are just some examples of what you can do. These are the ones that jumped out at me when I was running this analysis. In the same amount of clicks, you can get placement information, and you will notice that this is a new bulk file I downloaded today. We got top, which Amazon just calls top.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Amazon, for just hitting the space bar or at the enter key after you wrote top. So we have placement top, we have rest of search, we have product page, and we do have Amazon Business added too. So you can see they're getting some traction there for now. We've got this data. It's only $1,000 in spend, $900 in spend. This account, all the placements have 21% ACoS. And I can see placement top absolutely crushing it at a 12% ACoS. I can see maybe product page, maybe above where I want, 29%. And I just wanted to point out something. A lot of people make a mistake when they look at their account. So like this account average is 21%. They might look at that. That is in aggregate your entire account. If you're making decisions in your account based off this 21% ACoS, you're going to be missing some finer detail. A big fine detail here is, hey, I've got product page at 29% where I spent, $481. It's almost half of this entire account. And I could probably go investigate that a little bit more. So I might find some areas where maybe I'm spending, more than I would want to on product page as an example. And I could begin to maybe trim that down, maybe spend a little less on product page, maybe do something with bidding or campaign structure. So it gave me an immediate jumping off point to go take some action here, which is Fantastic. I see I'm spending very little on Amazon Business. So maybe I go and look at my business reports and see what my conversion rate is on B2B placements. And maybe I'll make a decision to create a specific B2B campaign, so on and so forth. So it's just like an amazing springboard to be informed about your account that I would be missing. If I was just in the ad console clicking around. I might have missed this big account level aggregation.
Yeah. I mean, I look at this and I have no idea what account this is. Like, this is all stuff that Michael brought to the table that I haven't seen beforehand.
Mhm.
But Michael, I bet you any amount of money that for this account, all placements are set to zero.
Mm.
And just based off of this. And the reason I would say that is because it's when you see top of like placement top, which is top of search in the console, usually that is the lowest ACOS only when they're not adding any bid adjustments at all. And so you have a great conversion rate there, but you're hardly spending any money, which also, if you look here, you'll notice you're not really spending much money at top of search. And the spend that is happening up there is probably all branded because that's the only time that they're able to show
Right.
up at the top of the page.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a really handy one. I have this one is something we keep in our back pockets. We look at this multiple ways, not just from and a lot of the time we'll just use the console because it takes so long to get the bulk files. But if you're doing a wholesale evaluation, bulk file is the way to go because there's so much gold in here. This is great. I really like this one, Michael.
I'm almost inspired to like whoever's like the intern on the team. Guess what, intern? Once a week, you're just going to request bulk files. So like it'll just be waiting there for us whenever we need it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I hope someone adds that to their like resume where it's like, I was responsible for pressing the bulk file button so other people can use it.
Yeah.
You can do this same level of analysis too with bidding strategy. This particular account only had down only. That's just like a quick thing that you can sort of do. You can also run that sort of analysis. I'll jump over to here. You can also see SKU level data. So basically wherever that SKU is in multiple places, it will sort of aggregate that data for you. So you can get spend, sales, and whatever other metrics you want. And I've added ACOS here on a per SKU basis. And when I look at a data like this, I'm seeing some standouts. Like I see, again, we're only talking about $900 in spend, but I'm seeing one that's spent, over 10%. It spent $100 at a 6% ACOS. I'm automatically going to be drawn to that and sort of ask myself, is there any more juice that I can get from that orange? Can I maximize the visibility of that particular ASIN? And I also see some other areas where I spent some money and it did not generate any sales. I can just sort of start conversations. Again, the data is relatively small, but you have sort of a range of ACOS here per product, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, and actually, I would encourage anyone who is watching this. This is a great example of, in my opinion, maybe not quite enough data. But something else I was wondering is, are all these going to the same product detail page or are these different product detail pages?
What other data would you want added here?
Well, I was asking if this is all going to one parent ASIN or if it's going to multiple parent ASINs.
For this example, yeah, I actually don't know the answer to this example.
So one thing I would do, and again, this is something where we have a very opinionated stance on this. And Michael, I think that you guys do something quite similar. And that opinionated stance is that, generally speaking, we try to put all of our products into a portfolio. So if you have one parent ASIN, you put all of the SKUs underneath that into the same portfolio. We usually do that because then the column that we would add to this pivot table is the portfolio column. And then any SKU within that portfolio would then be part of the parent ASIN. So it would make analysis on these products so much easier because every time you look at the SKU, say you've got that SKU that's got 6% ACOS. I look at that right there and I'm like, that's amazing. But what we might not be realizing is that SKU could actually be doing even better because it might also be driving sales on some of the other variations. So that's the kind of thing that I would recommend people do as like a next level, especially if you have multiple child variations underneath a product variant or underneath a parent variation. Our friend Elizabeth Green, she works with a lot of clothing companies. And so that's something that she talked a lot about on a recent episode. It's like making sure that you have a good organization inside your campaign manager, especially if you have lots of child variations. But when I look at this, I'm like, yeah, there's so much gold in here, Michael. This is really handy. Anyone looking at this, like this is found money.
Yeah. What comes up a lot with this data for me is people are at a precipice of making a decision of like, what do I not want to advertise anymore? You know, I think that's a
Mm,
conversation that people have where it's like, do I need to advertise every product? And they're almost looking for data points to sort of say, like, hey, I have this one $65. Now, of course, there's a lot of like extra information we would need. So, like, what is this SKU that has a 73% ACOS, or what's this one with an 85% ACOS? There'd be a conversation around, again, this is little data, but there'd be a conversation around like, is there a better product that we can advertise instead of this? Like, could another SKU that's converting better pick up some of the impressions that this one was getting? I do generally feel like that's a good move to make. So, like with clothing, for
mhm,
example, maybe not every size needs to be advertised in the same way. So it's like
mhm.
let's not advertise this particular sizing or this particular color variant, and instead let's let those search terms funnel in towards another product that is a little bit stickier.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Could not agree more. Um, it's also interesting to see the FBA and FBM SKUs.
Right.
So you can something you could do is you could
Right.
filter this and
Contain.
compare,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
FBA versus FBM.
Right.
So you could just keep going on this analysis too.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, this is great.
This is from a different account because I wanted one with a little bit beefier data. And this is similar to the placement top, rest of search, product page, Amazon business, except I just wanted to sort of demonstrate to people you can add extra levels of grouping or filtering with a pivot table and just sort of get a pulse check on things. So basically, what you're seeing here for placement top, what you're seeing is for all of the placements for top of search, what each value was. So like let's say you had multiple campaigns with 100% top of search, that would be pooled together here. So like all of the 100% buckets. And I mean, you can get even more refined, and I could have done like 0 to 25, 25 to 50, so on and so forth. But basically what this is giving me, and you can analyze this in a lot of ways. I could have started with like a campaign up top. That way I could have all my campaigns and then
Hmm.
each campaign broken out by its placements and then the placement percentage next to it. So I could have like played with this data in a lot of different ways. In fact, that by campaign might be even more useful. But just from a quick pulse check here, I can just sort of get a quick glance like, okay, 310. I just want to be sure that that campaign yeah. Now that I look at
Hmm.
this, it probably does make sense to do 3 levels deep. So campaign in the first column, then broken out by placement, then broken out by percentages. I would just want to be sure that this 310% placement is doing what I want it to do, because this placement is like an 80% for me for an account that's otherwise 38%. So I just want to be sure like that's the intention behind what I want to do. And it's sort of just like cluing me in, like maybe some buckets. So I probably have one campaign where I set this 85%. It's just sort of alerting me like, hey, maybe this 99%, is it doing what you want it to do? Is this intentional or not? So it's just sort of giving me a quick glance at where the data is going, like where the funnel is going. I could see that for rest of search, I have a lot of spend where for rest of search without a bid percentage. And it's like, is that intentional? Is that what I want it to do? I also have product pages. I have a lot of spend with no product page adjustments. Is this what I want it to do? And again, product page at 0%, 58%. Like maybe I want to play with some campaign structure a little bit to maybe reduce this a bit, because I can see it's, out of all these numbers, this is the largest chunk of spend and sales at a undesirable ACOS. So there's a lot
Hmm.
to be said about even just this report. Again, super quick to build this, right? Get your bulk file, hit a pivot table, add your columns, boom. So like I have a springboard to more informed analysis, and it sort of breaks through, because I feel like so many people, when you just look at the ad console and you just see those big high level summaries, and then you're like clicking in campaign by campaign, you're like almost like playing whack-a-mole, like where's the data? What am I looking for? This just gives you a springboard to more informed analysis. So like for me, if I just saw this, I'd probably add the campaign column, but then I can also go back and just take a look like, placements for my product pages. Is this what I want? Is there a way to fix this? Like it just sort of lead to the conversation here.
Yeah. I mean, the the product pages at 0 really jumped out at me because
Mhm.
it does seem like that is it's a large chunk. It's your second biggest chunk of spend. Um, and it's all 0%.
A
But
lot of
then,
rest of search at 0% too.
well, yeah, and rest of search is more desirable. It's like we could start spending more on rest of search and get a
Mhm.
much better outcome here. So yeah, the rest of search seems really interesting to me. It looks like there could be a lot of performance there that all you need to do is kind of go in and perform some analysis.
And
I
yeah,
also have, yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
I'd never really thought to look at all of my top of search placements stacked like this before.
Right.
It's interesting. I'd never really thought like, oh, okay, well, what is the most ideal top of search bid adjustment for this brand? It looks like, once you cross 275, the ACOS starts to really go off.
Mhm.
Now, that may not necessarily be the placement adjustment's fault. It could be the campaign or the keywords or something like that. But it's interesting to see, like, it looks like 50% really does well and 60% really does well. Maybe it's better for us to keep our placement somewhere in that range, or
Mhm.
maybe we need to dial in our placements a little bit more.
Mhm. Yeah, a quick way to find because I always a quick way to find places where you have no adjustment at all. So I had $770 of no top of search placement adjustment, and it's all
Hmm.
about just doing things with intention. So I would just like go and check like what are these campaigns where I have no top of search placement percentage? Is this intentional or not?
Hmm.
I would just be asking myself these questions.
Yeah, and that's super easy. And there's lots of spend at, well, maybe not lots, but there's a good amount of spend at top of search with no adjustment at all. You
Mhm.
could just bump that up a little bit and
Right.
see if you could maximize it a little bit more.
Right. Get more sales for that with similar ACOS because you can see all the ACOSs in this range are kind of good, right? Like under
Yeah.
50%. It's almost like you can't miss. Uh, you
Yeah.
know, and again, we probably have one campaign. This is 41%. This is 35% ACOS, which is probably
Hmm.
just misbehaving a bit, or just like again, different different campaigns might have different goals, but for the most part, yeah, like this gives you a really interesting. Like, look how much we're talking about this.
Hmm.
Really interesting view. And all we did was download a bulk file and run a pivot table on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you were looking at this and you're like, what would the pros do with this? One, they'd reduce spend on product pages. Usually you have to do that by lowering your bids and then increasing your placements everywhere else.
Mhm,
Two is we start increasing rest of search placements. There's
mhm,
lots of room for rest of search growth. Um, and right now there's not a lot of spend there. So kind of go and look at where you can get the most bang for your buck. And then three is evaluate top of search and just make sure that top of search placements are aligned with the account's goals.
mhm.
And yeah, Michael, this is a no brainer.
Yeah. The next one was just sort of doing something similar to the match types, but doing it with product targeting types. And for this
Mm,
one, I just, yeah, again, you can select whatever you wanted. So like I added the keyword group category, so like category targeting too. But I could have just as easily avoided that and just done the auto targets. So again, a quick pulse check on auto targets. Just sort of seeing how the spend distribution is being laid out. It's not much spend, but I can see compliments at 75% ACOS, way above where I'd probably want to be for this account. For the most part, the autos were pretty consistent, 33, 31, 35. So there's something to be said about this. Maybe 2, 3 years ago, I did a study of like, do you benefit by breaking your auto targets into separate campaigns? And the answer was yes, just because you get better control all around, both in terms of like budget control and placement control for those. Um, so I did notice that. But, for the most part, this data is fairly consistent.
mhm. I mean, when I look at this, I say to myself, well, first thing, and if you have the data handy to do a study, I would love to know if compliments are worth it ever. So for us, a part of our auto creation SOP is just turn off compliments. I've never seen compliments have outsized performance. It's always bad performance after a few months of waiting. And
Mhm.
so I've just given up on waiting,
I mean, think
you
about
know?
think about what a compliment is, right? Someone's
Yeah.
shopping. They're like, "Could you please also consider this? Like,
Hmm.
would you want this add-on?" right?
Yeah. It's not really a great type of thing to target.
Right.
So
I'd much
yeah.
rather do market basket analysis and see like what actually people buy similar in the same basket,
Hmm.
and then just target stuff like that
Yeah.
intentionally. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot more sense.
And this would be your smoking gun to like really understand that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So at this point, our agency just doesn't run compliment anymore. Yeah.
The last one I have is just I wanted to get one from sponsored brands.
Hmm.
This was really easy, where it's just your creative headline breakouts. Again, using the concept of what a bulk file is, it's all of the data, right? So instead of like clicking into a single headline for a sponsored brand ad, you can just see all of them all at once and run the same kind of analysis. Now, I could have done click through rate or conversion rate or whatever, but I can see here that one headline is actually performing worse than everything else. 77 in spend, only 40 in sales, compared to 160 in spend, 600 in sales, 17 in spend, 180 in sales. Like it's very, there's no like ad rotation, which I think we'd all love. But what you can do with bulk files is just grab them all and then display the information at a high level and then go back into your account and trim and optimize.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is really handy. Um, I think as Amazon builds out sponsored brands more, there's going to be more and more capabilities and more opportunity to do stuff like this. So, and I know that's something that I think they're pretty focused on. So, Michael, that's another like really solid one to finish on. Like, there's so many different analysis opportunities that most people just ignore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bulk files with a pivot table. So like all of these things that you could have done, I mean, each one only takes like 10 seconds to produce. And then from there, it's just a really nice springboard to go and take some concentrated action in your account.
Yeah. I mean, this was so actionable and so well thought out. Like, thank you for bringing this.
My pleasure.
Is there some kind of like parting message, like key takeaway from this podcast? Like you should think about this when that, you know?
I think the big takeaway is simply your account, while it does have sort of these monolithic figures like total account spend, total account revenue, total ACOS. Those are figures that people pay a lot of attention to. And depending on where you are in the company org chart, that might be enough for you. Meaning, if you're the owner of the company, it probably doesn't make sense for you to download a bulk file and run a creative headline performance comparison, unless you're also the PPC manager. So if you're also wearing the PPC manager hat,
Hmm.
you should be doing this. So like you should be finding areas, you should be thinking as granular as possible. And a lot of times when people hear granular as possible, they think about like clicking on one campaign, going into one campaign, analyzing that one campaign under a microscope. And there's certainly lane for that. But what I like to do first is really get these high level analyses, these high level summaries of like different segments of data. So I know where to go in. Like the one example I thought was probably the most actionable one was downloading the placements and the percentages and just seeing how much ad spend I have with no placement percentage on
Hmm.
my product pages in rest of search. It's like, oh, I forgot to do that. Let me go and take action there. So it's like that kind of thing. It's just so quick that I may have missed, because how often does someone analyze their entire account by placement and placement percentage in bulk? That's what this unlocks.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are so many different ways to manage Amazon PPC, but I feel like this is no matter what, like a solid strategy because it's more of a principle. Like go and see where you might find concentrations of opportunity, whether it's concentrations of new spend you could create or you could start pushing, or it's a concentration of poor performance at a placement or a match type or a targeting type. Like you're looking for the concentrations that are kind of an early warning sign,
Hmm.
or a instead of early warning sign, like a big red button of opportunity that you just need
Right.
to push.
Right.
So yeah, really like this. Thank you for coming so prepared. That was super cool.
My pleasure.
So Michael, where can people find you on the internet?
They can just go to adbadger.com. I podcast there. I create content there. I share some thoughts there for sure. Adbadger.com.
Yeah. Full disclosure, Stones Goods is a customer of Ad Badger, but that's just because we really like their software. It's easy to use and we really like Michael.
Right on, dude.
Yeah. Look, thanks so much for being here. This was super cool.
My pleasure. Have a good one.
Cheers.